All right, so should you be doing open houses if you are selling your property? It depends, really. That's the answer. So as a listing agent and also as a buyer's agent, I can give you my perspective and what I recommend for my clients depending on what kind of property they're selling and also who they are as individuals, because that matters. So we're going to talk about what kind of properties are going to be best suited for open houses and what you should be keeping in mind. Maybe you're working with me, maybe you're working with another agent. What you should be keeping in mind if you're thinking, should I be doing open houses to market my property, and will that result in more exposure, and is that going to bring me more buyers and a higher price point, and what are some things that I should be thinking about as far as security when I'm doing open houses versus private showing. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. I'm Joshua Ferris. Welcome back to my channel. I sell homes and properties and ranches here on the Central Coast of California, my home county. If you are interested in buying a home here or selling a home here, please reach out. You should be able to see my information there below on the description. So let's go ahead and get started. Are open houses worth it for you as a home or property seller? Let's go. All right, so one thing that you need to think about when you are listing your home is the kind of exposure that you're getting, right? So do open houses get more exposure than, let's say, just putting it on the MLS, sending out postcards, doing mailers, all those online services as well, Zillow, Redfin, because the majority of home buyers are seeing your property online, or they're getting their the information through their listing or the buyer's agent, and so they're getting the information from them, looking at the homes that come on the market and scheduling a private showing. Well, so what is the answer? Yes, you will get more exposure as a seller of a property or home if you do open houses. Now, does that mean that it's going to be one of the main elements of marketing? No. However, there can be some really important attributes that are something you should be considering, not just exposure, but it has to do with leverage as well. So the answer in short, yes, you are going to get more exposure. Is it the right kind of exposure? That's really the question. So one of the downfalls of doing open houses is you don't have a chance to pre-qualify buyers. So you might get some looky-loos. So that is a con of having open houses, right, as far as marketing tactic. But what you can do is, as a listing agent, if I'm hosting an open house for one of my clients, I can find people who might want to move into the area, or one of their neighbors mentioned that they should go take a look at this open house, and maybe they haven't started that process quite yet of getting pre-qualified. Maybe they're a first-time home buyer, but seeing the home in person, also seeing other people showing a lot of interest and they're at the open house, it may give them the kind of impetus, the kind of kick in the pants that they need to call their banker, call their lender, get pre-qualified and make an offer, because they've seen a lot of people going through and they've seen the home in person, and maybe they weren't actively searching, but they become active buyers. So that's one thing. The right kind of exposure is important, and so that's one thing. On a negative, you're going to get some looky-loos that are not qualified, but on the positive, you may get some looky-loos, well, serious buyers, but they just haven't started the process yet to really get pre-qualified, but maybe a neighbor mentions them. So that's one thing to consider. And along that same line, it's going to create more buzz in the neighborhood. This is another pro. So let's say you live in a development that has 200, 300, 400 homes in it, right? So what I typically do when I'm doing open houses, because it's an area that I focus in as far as marketing, in addition to digital and print marketing, but I like to see people face to face and go out there, and what I like to do is create advocates, right? So talk to each one of the neighbors and say, hey, by the way, did you know that this property right next door to you or across the street in this development is being sold? Hey, we're doing an open house. Do you know anybody who might be interested in moving into the area? So it gets people thinking, their wheels turning in their mind of, oh yeah, we've got those friends. They said they'd love to move here. Let me reach out. Let them know there's an open house. They might be from out of the area. They might not have an active local agent who is sending them listings, but they've expressed interest to one of their neighbors. So sometimes the best advocates to help you sell your home are people who already live in the neighborhood and know the attributes of it and the amenities, and they can go ahead and talk to their friends who've mentioned. So that's one thing. It's important to not just do an open house it's important to also do all the marketing and the behind the scenes work to make that open house successful so you can attract the right kind of buyer. Okay, so a question is, does it bring you more money and do you sell in a shorter amount of time? The answer is yes. So you can see here information that I pull up that yes, in fact it does, and on average homes that have open houses sell for about $9,000 more in a week sooner than those that don't. Now it depends on each metro area, but we like to look at generalities. So yes, the answer is it will increase the purchase price on average, and also will sell your home in a shorter time frame. Now it depends. Is it a seller's market, strong seller's market, or is it more of a buyer's market? Right now in 2023, we're headed into a more normalized market. It's not as much of a seller's market as it was in the last couple of years, and it's certainly not a buyer's market quite yet, but it's a little bit in the middle there. So that is a good time to be doing open houses in my opinion, but when it's a really strong seller's market, you're not gonna need to do open houses quite as much, probably because you're gonna get an offer within the first few days before you even have a chance to do an open house. But that's a great segue into another aspect of open houses and what I try and communicate to my clients when we talk about doing open houses, whether or not they should, whether or not they shouldn't. So that is this. Let's say we list your home on Tuesday or Wednesday. The best time to list a home early, midweek. So let's say Wednesday. We list a home Wednesday. There are hundreds of people that see the home online. They see on Zillow, they see on Redfin. They're checking it out. They're going, I want to go check that home out. And they see that there's an open house on Saturday and Sunday. Do you think that's going to create a sense of urgency for them to go see the home? Or do you think they're going to sit on their couch and go, actually, I don't really need to see it. I'll schedule a showing with my realtor the next week. It's going to create a sense of urgency. So that's an important thing to think about. You might not bring a buyer from that open house, but if buyers out there see that there's an open house and that there's going to be people going through, that people are going to be talking about it, and there's a chance that they might not be able to get their offer accepted, they're going to be more proactive. They're going to have a higher sense of urgency to get their offer in, to schedule their private showing, and to have a strong offer. Now, what I've happened all the time, and it's a little bit behind the scenes, when I'm a listing agent and somebody comes to me with an offer, and I know that I have an open house on the weekend, it gives me great leverage, right? Great negotiation leverage. When I say, look, we need a strong offer because we've got an open house. We might be bringing in another buyer. There's going to be a lot of people. We've sent out marketing material. So if you are going to, make us cancel the open house, we need to see a really strong offer at asking price or over asking price, or, so that's something to be considering. It really creates great negotiation leverage on my end. And this is what I like to tell people. I cannot control the outcome, because oftentimes people will come to me and say, hey Josh, how much is my home going to sell for? I can get pretty close to what it's going to sell for on the open market if you do the right process. That's really all I can control, and that's my motto. So control the process, and to give you the best leverage if you are in that first week or two of listing your home. If you've got an open house coming on the weekend, it's going to create some motivated buyers that are out there that might be talking to their buyer's agent or scheduling that showing. So something to keep in mind. Okay, the last pro, something to think about, because I just had this happen to me, and this is the impetus for making this video. I hosted an open house, and the seller asked me, should I be doing open houses? So what I said is this. I said, yes, if I was you, I'd be doing open houses. The reason being, in addition to those things I mentioned, is each realtor has his or her own network of colleagues, of people that they know from networking groups, maybe they know from nonprofits, maybe they know on social media, that they're going to do all their own marketing. So when you list a home, right, you're going to have all of that marketing out there. You've probably seen it if you've got any friends on Facebook. They post that they have a new listing and they want to get it out to their network, right? So think about that. I have 1,200 friends on Facebook, about 2,600 on LinkedIn. I've got my meetup group, so we've got 1,500 on those. In addition to all the MLS stuff that we do, we've got a lot of people that are going to be seeing your home. If let's say we bring in another agent to do a listing, a open house for us, they're going to have all of their network that they're going to talk to. They're going to talk to their friends. They're going to say, hey, come on by the open house. And so that is a way to bring a buyer in, because you've got that access to all that other network. and maybe they saw that house for sale, but when they get that personal invite to an open house, that can be a real good thing to get what we want, more exposure. All right, so we're wrapping this video up, but before we do, let's talk about some of the cons and some of the things that you need to be keeping in mind, and my advice for people. So you really shouldn't be doing an open house if you're way out in the country and you're selling a ranch, because that's something that I sell here in the Central Coast, sell ranches. So if you've got a ranch, lots of property, you don't really need to be doing open houses. If you're in the city, if you've got a neighborhood, open houses are very good. I oftentimes, well, most of the time, recommend them. Depends on what you want though. So that's important to understand. It's your personal preference. One thing people will say they don't want an open house for, you can't control as a open house agent hosting the open house. You can't control where people are going. So there might be 5, 6, 7 groups of people coming through your house at a time. So what I say is, if there's anything that is valuable, take that with you. Make sure it's locked up, because in a private showing, I walk right with the client and give them a tour of the home as a buyer's agent, and as a listing agent, if I'm showing, I'll be giving a private tour. But you can't control as much when there are lots of people coming through. So keep that in mind. Put away your valuables. If there's some really important things that you want to be mindful of, maybe it's best not to do an open house. But if you do want to do an open house, keep those valuables locked up. That's my advice. Also, another negative, if you don't want to do an open house, is this: there's going to be a lot more foot traffic, right? And you're also going to have to get your home up to par and ready for showing. If you don't want to have lots of foot traffic, then maybe don't do it. But I always recommend people have the foot booties to put their shoes into, so it doesn't track any mud, and make sure that keeping an eye on people. But that's another reason why you might not want to do an open house, extra foot traffic and hassle. I personally think that it's worth it to do an open house, and if I was selling my home, I would have an open house just because of those reasons that I stated earlier. But ultimately, it's up to you. But I wanted to make this video. Like I said, I had that seller I was hosting an open house for ask me, so I thought, I should make this video here. Should you be doing open houses? Anyway, hope you found this valuable. If you'd like more information and ask me anything about real estate here on the Central Coast, go ahead and click the link or give me a call. Put my phone number down there. Hope you have a great day. And if you can, you find this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you on the next one.